Alright, so you've blended all your tips in now, and now we're going to start doing the SNS. Right, so I'm going to go through the products here with you now. We've got, and all these will be listed down in your book later,
Okay,
and I will tick in your book what you need to buy. Okay? So we've got EA Bond, which is primer. Okay? We've got gel base, which is our gel which we apply to the nails before we dip them into the powder. And we've got the sealer dry, which sets the mixture of the powder and the gel base together. So
okay.
This is what sets it. Okay? And of course we've got the natural set powder. Okay? The natural set powder is the one that you use when you're doing like French, and also to give the natural nails when you're doing the tips. Okay? And you also
can have a colour on that though.
Yes, we put the colour on afterwards.
Okay.
This gives it its strength, right? And one advantage of putting this on first as well is that when they come back in to have the colour removed and the infill's done, you can file the colour off back to this, so you're not doing a soak off every single time when you've got tips on.
Okay.
Because otherwise you'll be doing it all twice, wouldn't you, all the time? So the powder, when it's sitting on the shelves, will settle. Okay, so you have to make sure it's really loose in the pot. So here's our powder. You can also give it a stir, like this. Now, although it is a dipping system, it's not a dip. Okay, it's more of a scoop through. See that?
Yeah.
So you're just going to go through like that. Now, when you bring the nail out, make sure you bring it out vertical. Then the excess powder will drip off.
Yep.
Okay? You see, you wouldn't be coming out like that because you'd have all powder on top of the nail, wouldn't you?
Okay.
So it is a scoop. Now you may get some people say, well, what about everybody's dipping the fingers in this powder? What about cross-infection? Now, the answer to that is that we sanitize fully our clients. Okay, so before we start doing the nails.
At the beginning, haven't you? The sanitising.
Yeah, we did all the sanitising at the beginning. So it's very important to do your sanitisation. Absolutely vital. Okay, so there's your powder. So if you give me your hand a moment. Right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this nail for tips, because we've got a tip on there.
Okay.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is get my primer, my EA Bond, and I'm going to put this onto the area that is the natural nail. Now, if you were doing an overlay of the SNS on a natural nail, do all your nail prep the same, except you'd be shaping the nails to the client's wishes, wouldn't you? They'd be their own nails. You wouldn't be sticking a tip on. So you do all your prep exactly the same, but the primer would then go over the whole nail.
Okay.
Okay. So I've primed the nails, and I'd go along all the nails. Right, so I'm going to get my gel here, and I'm going to just go like this to take some of the excess off, and I'm going to put it halfway up the nail, just down the centre. See that?
Yeah.
And I'm going to go into my powder. I'm going to tap it. Okay. Now the second one, I'm going to put 3/4 of the way up, down the centre, but now I'm going to go side to side. Now I'll pinch the finger here to try and pull the skin away from the edges.
You try and get as close to the edges as possible?
Yes, definitely, without overlapping. Don't forget, you can turn the finger and pull the skin away at the sides. so you can get into the edges. Now once you put your layer on, just go back over it with the brush, keep it laid down flat, back over it to smooth it out. Okay? Make sure there's none into the edges. Okay? Then I'm going to go into here again, and then I'm going to tap it. Now if you've got any excess powder at the back there, I tend to just very lightly with this brush, hardly touching the nail.
What happens if you touch the nail?
Well, because it's a bit soft, you might dent it. Okay, so most times you won't have to do that. It's just if you feel like you've picked up a bit extra powder or loose powder at the back. Now I'm going to just do this again, and this time I'm going right up to the cuticle.
Far up as possible.
Yeah, without overlapping it.
Okay. And the edges again.
Yeah, pinching the nail. Get a nice even coat onto the nail. And then once you've done that, just go back over just to smooth it out so you've got an even coat over the nail. Keep the brush laid down. Now I'm going to go into here again. Tap, tap. And I'm now going to get my sealer. It's a good idea to have all these tops loose before you start. And I'm going to bring this out now without wiping it on the side, because I want to get a really good coat of sealer onto the nail. Okay, so I'm going to come straight out and just go onto the nail like that, just lightly flicking over.
Up to the edges. Well, you've got enough on the edges, haven't you?
It will flow. It will. If you've got enough sealer on your brush, when you flick over the nail like that, it will spread over the nail. Now, a mistake people make is that they just take too much off the brush. So when they go onto the nail, there's not enough sealer, and you want it to be able to penetrate 3 layers of the product you put on there. Now, the one you put halfway up down the centre, the first one, that's going to give you a curve this way.
Right, okay.
The one you do 3/4 of the way up across the whole nail will give you more of your curve this way. See? And the last one, of course, just does the whole nail.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's only one layer of powder at the back. Alright? So, that means when you start putting your colour on, it doesn't all build up heavy at the back. See?
Mm-hmm.
Also, when they come in for infills, and you remove the colour off the nail, and you're back to this, you've only got one layer of powder at the back, and it's grown out now to about here, hasn't it?
Yeah.
But you've only got one layer of powder. So consequently, when you have to blend in that line, there's virtually nothing to do.
Is that powder hard enough to hold on a longer nail?
It is. But if I was doing a longer nail, I'd probably do an extra coat on the nail.
So repeat that before you put the sealant on. What
Yeah,
you went through.
just do an
the
extra.
one at the side.
Yeah, an extra coat
Okay.
on a longer nail. Now you can also do this 3-step method on a natural nail. If you've got somebody come in and they've just got flat nails, and there's no shape to them, like these are quite nice, aren't they? But there's no shape to them. Then you can, if you need to, do this 3-step method on the nail here, and that will then give it some shape.
Okay.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
But all the time, remember, you only really want the one layer at the back.
Okay.
So when it grows out, your infills are not a problem. Now you'll find with SNS that you just don't get lifting with this product. You know, I've been doing them a long while now, and I never seem to have any problem with lifting. You know, it's also very kind to your nails as well. It's got vitamins in it, you know. So, people who have acrylics continually, or hard gel, which is extensions, continually, you find that the nails gradually get weaker. With this product, the nails get stronger. And it's a proven fact. I've been doing it a long time now with this product, and I just know that it does improve the condition of your nails.
Okay.
So that's a very good selling point.
Okay.
Very good selling point for the nails. And the fact with the technician side, the fact that it doesn't lift gives you an even, makes your job a lot easier when you're coming to do that. So once this is set, obviously you'd go along, do each nail as you go, and seal each nail as you go. Okay? So don't do all this hand and then come back with your sealer and seal all the nails.
The whole nail must be finished before you move on to the next.
Yes, because that way it's now setting, isn't it?
Yep.
So once it's set, all I'm going to do is file the edges to make sure that our edges are nice and clear. I'm just going to tidy up around the
You're doing the soft side.
I am, yeah, the smooth side. Just tidy up your front edge again. Feel it with your fingers just to check that there's no bumps or lumps on it, where maybe the gel was a bit thicker and you haven't smoothed it out completely. And obviously if the gel's thicker in one area, it's going to pick up more powder, you have a bit of a bulge, aren't you? But if you do it properly, you should have a nice finish like this. And then once you've done that, you can find the rough side on your block, just go over like this, smoothing it out with the rough side of your block. Just gives a better key for your products that are going to come on afterwards. And then there's our nail now ready for whatever we're going to do next to it. Which is
Okay.
great, isn't it?
Yeah. So what could you do next to it? Just put a normal colour on?
You could use a gel polish over this, right?
Or you could just use the gel?
But the whole idea of doing SNS is to do an SNS colour. Now there's over 400 colours in the range, so you've got plenty of colour choice. And in fact, SNS are now about to bring out a gel polish as well, matching to their colours. So that's great news.
Okay.
So that's only just been released. I don't think it's in the UK at the moment, but it's coming, the gel polish. So that'd be great to have that matching, because then you'd be able to do SNS on the fingers and gel polish on the toes, matching colours, which is going to be fantastic.
But you could use just a general polish on there now?
Yes, you could. Yes, you could. Right, so the other thing we can do as well is we could put a white tip on, which we're going to do anyway. I'm going to show you how to do that. And then what we're going to do, once the white tip's on and it's set, we're going to bring it back off with the electric file, so that, and then I'm going to tell you how to do the infill, and then it would be putting your colours on. So you're going to go out today with a full set of all one colour.
Yeah.
Maybe a glitter on the one finger and all the rest.
It's just a one for glitter on one finger.
Well, I did want to show you how to do a glitter, because I do it slightly different to the other colours, you see. So
Can't we use a false nail?
You could do a false nail.
I could show you that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Show you a false nail.
Yeah, you don't have to do this.
Okay. Well, aren't you boring?
No, I'm not actually.
No.
Okay.
Okay. It's just as much glitter.
No
Yes.
glitter.
The main thing with this system is that, and why it's so popular, is that it looks very natural on the nail. Yeah. And the other thing as well is that when you've got acrylics on, right, you can feel them. You know they're there, right?
So you know where to go?
Yeah.
Yeah, as I was saying, when you've got acrylics on, you know they're there,
Yeah.
right? It's a standard liquid and powder.
Yeah.
And one of the main reasons for that is that liquid and powder, as it's curing, it takes 24 hours to cure fully, right? And as it's curing, it's shrinking. The
Yeah.
molecules are coming together to bond, right? So you get this tightening on the finger, which gives you the feeling that you've got something on your finger, right? And sometimes it can, if the nails have been over-filed, too thin, the natural nails, it can actually hurt and tingle. And then, of course, once the 24 hours is up,
Yeah.
it stops shrinking and you
Yeah.
can't feel it anymore.
Yeah.
But one thing with SNS is that because it's not shrinking, you don't
You don't
even
get
know
that.
you've got them on.
Okay.
And that's why people like them, because
You
they
don't
just,
want that feeling, do you?
they just feel so natural on the nails. So what I want you to do now is I want you to actually do all those. So just to recap, you're going to put the primer on, then you're going to do one down the centre, smooth
Halfway.
it out, yeah, halfway up, dip into your powder, tap it to get the excess off, then 1/3 of the way up, but side to side,
Step one side to side.
dip, tap, and then one all the way to the back over the whole nail, dip, tap.
Okay. Will you
And-
watch me do the first one?
Yeah, and then it's going to be sealer
Okay.
over the whole thing.
Okay.
Alright? Alright, so what we're going to do now, or you're going to do I should say, is you're going to do a French. Okay? Now, you've got what we call the French dip mould, that's this thing here, that we're going to put our white powder, French white, into. So we're going to just pop that into there, like that. We've got our natural set shear, and this is like the natural set that you used before, but it's a very clear powder. Okay, it's completely clear. So we're going to be using that as well. So again, I just want to make sure it's dippable, nice and smooth. And then we've got our gel and we've got our sealer again. So it's the green top again. Okay, if you notice all the products have got different coloured tops. Okay, so if I just go along these here, we've got the yellow top, which is cuticle oil. We've got an orange top, which is actually glue that you can stick the tips on with. Okay. And then you've got your gelish base, which we'll get onto next with the colours. You've got your top coat of the red top. You've got your white one, which was the primer. And you've got brush saver, right? And that's a blue top. Now, with the brush saver, the grey top, or the sealer dry, sets the gel, right? So if you've got sealer dry on the nail that's not completely dry, and you touch it with your gel brush will go hard, because that sets that.
So that's going to.
So that's why you've got this here. So what you do, you take this brush out, put that brush in, and then carry on with that brush in that pot.
Okay.
Okay, so sealer dry is quite important. I mean, I haven't set a brush for a long time, but when I first started, I did set some brushes. So what we're going to do is put the gel onto the nail, and then we're going to get this and slide this up to the nail to give the white tip.
Okay.
See? That's what we're going to do. So,
Is this just going to be on one finger for now?
no, we're going to take it off after.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, what's the point of it being covered with colour? Sorry.
Because what the
This
point
is a training exercise.
what the point is, you've got to learn how to do it.
Yeah, I do.
And then afterwards we're going to use the electric file to fetch it off,
Okay.
so that you know how to remove a colour off
Okay,
a
perfect.
off a nail. So let's make sure that's nice and loose and ready to go. So what I'm going to do is just get my gel and go over the whole nail.
Why?
Because you do. Right, go over the whole nail. Make sure you get into your edges here with the gel. Same the other side as well. And just make sure that we go back over to make sure we've got a good coat on the nail. And it's even. Now I'm going to go into here and I'm going to move this up to the smile line and then into the natural set shear. Just dipping it
Just
like
dip it as that is.
as before.
Smile line's a bit more accurate than the rest.
Yeah. Now there we have our gel.
It's easy as that.
Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my sealer and I'm just going to tap along the smile line like this. Now this is something that I do, right? And then I'm just going to go over here like that. And then I'm just going to do all of the nail. You notice I did wipe on the side. Now the reason I don't go right to the back and then just stripe like this, if there's any loose powder on the nail and I go back to the back, I might transfer some white to the back.
Right, good tip.
That's why I go along like that. And that's not in the manual, so it's just something I do.
Never remember that, it's a good tip.
Yeah, it is a good tip. So that's that done. So when that's set, I'm going to just block it over gently and then apply a top coat.
And that's it. Can I just see that? It's nice.
Okay.
You can have the smile line smaller though, can't you?
Well, yes, the reason I had to do it this big was because you have to go past that line, and that line was higher on that.
Okay.
You see, I mean, on this, for instance, I always think they look better on a smaller smile line, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Even smaller tips, you know, I think that they just look nicer, don't they, on a smaller
Yeah.
tip. But if you've got a smile line, a free edge that goes back, you've got to go back past it.
Silly.
Otherwise, you'd have a shadow, or you'd see this still.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So once that's set, I'm not going to block it off. Actually, I'll just. I'm not going to put the top coat on because we're going to do that anyway.
Okay.
Okay. So let's imagine now that my customers come in 2 weeks later and they say, I'd like my infills done. So you get your electric file with a different drill bit on. Okay?
So that's an S.
The fine one, yeah. And then we would just take off the colour. You did this before though, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Yeah, you've been doing this anyway, haven't you?
I've been doing gel removals and infills. In fact, like, you know, Jen, who
Yeah.
I took hers off literally 4 days afterwards.
Okay. So what I'm doing here now is I'm just filing off the colour, or it could be they could have had a colour on here, couldn't they? Well, they might have had a gel polish on actually, so you can just file it off back to the acrylic underneath, you know, the SNS underneath. Just thin it out a little bit there. And by the time they come in after 3 weeks, say, they've got a gap at the back, haven't they? Okay? So you can just use this very flat and just blend in that line that might be at the back.
Okay.
Okay? Doing it very, but keep it flat. Don't have it up. Keep it flat so that we're keeping. I'm using a fine one here. Okay? So once I've done that, I would then get my cuticle pusher and I would push back behind the line, where the line here, push back behind the line, trim my get off again if I needed to do it, okay? Then I'd use my fine sanding band on a slow speed and just clean up that new bit of nail, okay? And you can even use this to blend in that line, to be honest, okay? Dust it off, make sure there's none there. Get your primer, your white top, and put it along there. Get your green top, put a stripe across there, and then dip into your natural set powder, and then seal.
And that's it.
And then you'd have, because where you'd got the powder overlapping onto the other nail, you'd have a little bit of a ridge, wouldn't you? So all you do then is you just smooth it all out, Oops, sorry.
So you do it in full, you don't go all the way to the tip.
No,
Okay.
just do the back.
And then it's to smooth it out, you just file it.
Yeah, just smooth it over. Sometimes you can just do it with a block, to be honest. Smooth it over, and then it's reapplying your colour.
Okay.
Whatever method you were doing before. Okay?
Okay.
So that's straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah.
But what you'll like about this is that, as opposed to acrylic, which is usually thicker at the back, because it's so thin, there's hardly anything to do. You know, acrylic, you've got a lot of blending to do, probably. With this, there's nothing to do,
Okay.
virtually. Just a few goes over with this sanding band, and you've got it.
Okay.
Okay, and then just push the cuticles back, and then just put a stripe of primer along here, stripe of the green top gel base, dip into your natural set powder, and then seal it with your grey top, and then smooth it over when it's set.
Okay.
Okay, so what I want you to do now is I want you to have a go at doing the white tip. But you can do this finger if you like, there's not so much on it, right? So what you do, there's a little slope in there. See?
Yeah.
So what you do, you slide the finger down that slope.
Right.
But just keep it level, the powder on there, and then just slide the finger down the slope.
Okay.
See? But the other thing that's important is that when you put your gel on, you do get it into the edges here. Otherwise what you'll find is that it'll miss a piece. Then you have to redip it again.
Okay.
Okay, so now you will see in the manual, and I think in the manual and the DVD, you dips it twice. I try to do it once, but I mean, you know, if you have to do it twice, you'll have to do it twice. But like that, and you move this up to this, okay?
Okay.
This up to this, and then straight into here. And what this does, by using this, see if you just put the white on, you'd have like a little ridge, wouldn't you? Because the white would be standing proud. So when you dip it into this, that levels it all off.
Okay.
Get it? And then seal it. Tapping along the smile line, then along the front, and then the whole lot.
Okay.
Right, have a go, see how you get on. If you mess it up, you just have to do it again. But if you've messed it up, rather than seal it, just take it off before you seal it, and then you can have another try.
Okay.
Or you can do it on more than one finger if you want. It leaves it up to you.
Okay.
So we're going to do a colour, all over colour now. And what we're going to use is we're going to use Gel-Loose, see that Gel-Loose colour, with Gel-Loose base. See, that's your green top, gel base, and this is called Gel-Loose base.
Jealous.
Yeah, I always tend to say jealous for some reason, but it's Gel-Loose. Okay, and again, we want to make sure that this is not settled down flat. Now when these pots come, they are full to the brim. Okay, so what you need to do is just tip a little bit out, however much you need to, so that when you dip in here, you don't spill it all over the table.
Okay.
Okay, otherwise you'll be wasting product. Okay, just get it nice and loose, so when we dip in, it's going to be nice. We've got our natural set shear. And we've got our sealer dry. Okay. So these are the products that we're going to use. So let's have your finger. So what I'm going to do is get my Gel-Loose base, and I'm going to go on the nail up to the back.
Like a polish.
Yeah, exactly like a polish. Like you're putting a top coat on almost, isn't it?
Yep.
Except you want to make sure it's even. So just go back over. Or when you brush, always come off the end of the nail so you don't get a ridge halfway down. So now I'm going to dip this into here. just give it a little bit longer to take up the product. Tap it. There we have it on the nail, right? Now what I do now is I want to get rid of this loose powder that's on the surface here, because I don't want to be putting this gel on top of the loose powder. So I'm just going to flick it like this with just the hairs from the very, very tip of the brush, right? And I'm going to get the second layer. I'll get you another one in which isn't clamped up as much. And see, if you've missed any bits, look, just try and get a little bit closer on your second coat. Go over the nail. Just make sure it's nice and even. Make sure you get into those areas at the back, but don't overlap the cuticle.
So you wouldn't dip it twice, you just dip it so it's in there longer?
Well, I've done it twice, didn't I? In fact, what I do, sometimes I even put 3 on. Just want to catch that back section there. 2 dips should be sufficient, but I've got to admit, I usually put 3 on.
Okay.
Make sure there's no build-up in the sides. Okay. Oh, I just caught that. It's okay. Right, and then the last coat. If you can get away with 2, just do 2. Sometimes these pale colours, sometimes you need more, you know. So I'm just going to do that now, over that, like that. Sure it's nice and smooth, and then this very thin one just go into there and just tap that there. Okay, so that's now ready, and I'm going to seal it now. Make sure it's really going to penetrate all those layers, and then when that's set, I'm just going to file it over, make sure it's thin at the back, and then tidy up the sides, and then buff it over, and then top coat it.
Okay.
Simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to recap again, what you're going to do is put your jello base onto the nail, dip it, right, but kind of like dip it a little bit slower, okay, then come out, but come out vertical, tap it, and then just dust it off lightly. Put your second coat of gel on, and then dip it again, okay? And then just dust off the thing, put another coat on of that, and then dip it into here.
Okay.
Natural set shear, and then seal it.
Okay.
Okay? So we've got what we do is we just file over this to make sure it's nice and smooth. The hand file. I tend not to use the electric file on it, but you can if you want to. But to be honest, I think you can just go over it like that. Okay. Now you need a little bit of paper, and we need our sealer dry and our top coat. So what I'm going to do is to get sealer dry and just put it onto the nail like so, and I just go along all the nails doing that, and then when I come back to the beginning I'm just going to wipe it over, then I'm going to get my gel top coat and I'm going to quickly just go over the nail like that. Now if there's any excess sealer dry on the nail, it will set that brush.
Alright.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do, once I've gone along all the nails with that quick coat, I'm now going to come back with my second coat and I can be a lot more careful now with my brush out, because it's now got a base on there that's not going to set my brush. You see what I mean? Don't stroke it too many times because it is drying all the time.
So it doesn't need to go under those UV lights?
No.
Oh, it does, automatic.
Okay, so after about 8 minutes it will be
But you
dry.
have done the whole hand and then come back?
Yeah, then you come back. And then you just get your cuticle oil then, and you just go along all around the edges, like this. And then you could just brush that away from the surface, and then you've got the...
You still...
Well, I hope that's given you some insight into doing the SNS. Obviously, the best thing is to come on the course, and obviously we cover everything to do with SNS on our one-day accredited course. So, if you'd like to book, please give me a call, or you could just Facebook me, text me, email, and you can pick all those numbers up off our Facebook page or off our website, thenailschool.co.uk. So, I hope to hear from you soon. Bye.